That's it? Okay. So, I'm actually gonna turn off the fan. Just fuck it. So you guys can hear me clearly. So yeah, I have a lot to say about this game. I'm gonna try to articulate it the best I can. I might have to edit this quite a bit at the very end. So, overall, I would say this is definitely a good game. It's decently made. My biggest problem is, I guess I am disappointed in it, because it's definitely a step down from Resident Evil 2 Remake. Like, even without comparing it to Resident Evil 3, which, by the way, has more content than this game, at least as far as single-player content is concerned. I don't really give a fuck about the multiplayer in this game. It doesn't interest me. It's a little too gimmicky and weird. I mean, I guess I'll give credit to Capcom for trying something different, but in Resident Evil 2 Remake, you had giant hubs. It got kinda linear by the end, but generally speaking, there's like alternative paths or shortcuts, and that's why the police station is so wonderful. And the way they really force you to make use of the layout of the police station with Mr. X chasing you around, I really expected them to do something like that with Nemesis, and they just didn't. The first stage, the first zone you go into, kind of pisses me off, because it's almost like a lie. Like, there's nothing really like that for the rest of the game, and it's not even half as good as anything in Resident Evil 2. It's the only stage I can think of that kind of has a non-linear design to it a little bit. It's the only part where you're, like, regularly trying to run around Nemesis, and there are a couple shortcuts. You don't even fight the Chimeras. Like, even though you go to the same general area, you never fight the Chimeras once. I mean, you don't fight them after the first encounter, ever again. And in the original Resident Evil 3, they were like a prevalent threat for a lot of the game. You don't go to the clock tower, it's one of the most memorable locations in Resident Evil 3. Classic? It's just, like, town, sewers, hospital, and then secret underground lair, and that's it. The puzzles, yeah, there's only like one single sequence in the whole game that kinda sorta feels like a puzzle in that lab when you're like mixing the volumes, and that's just basically a ripoff of the same puzzle from Resident Evil 2 Remake, so what the fuck. The AI, my biggest problem with the AI, for the most part it's fine, it's just, maybe this plays into the fact that the game is so linear, but the zombies don't really put that much effort into following you throughout the stage, you know? There's not a bunch of different alternate paths for you to use like there was in the police station. And even when you get into the police station in this game, it's very short-lived, it's very linear. There's fucking boxes stacked all over the place. It's basically on rails. A lot of this game is on rails. Nemesis, for the majority of the game, except for that first zone, is basically on rails. And like, I don't mind a couple scripted sequences, but in terms of like stuff of substance, this game doesn't really have nearly as much going for it as the last game did. Yeah, I'd say it definitely feels like it was rushed. The hunters, like you saw when we were in the hospital, the fact that enemies just automatically reset and just ignore you, or they don't really behave properly when you go past a door, it would make sense if there were like door animations like in the original games, but this is supposed to be real time, and it completely pulls you out of the game, because it's like, it doesn't feel like you're interacting with a monster or a creature in this world, it's just you're abusing the AI. And again, the hunter we saw in there, where I was, you know, shooting it from the back because it kept ignoring me even though the fucking door was open, even though, and like, it's so weird, because sometimes, it seems like in very, very specific cases, the enemies will follow you, but most of the time they don't. They just go back to their preset location. They don't really patrol around. Nemesis, again, he doesn't patrol around any of the areas like Mr. X does. And in the first zone, he always knows exactly where you are, so you're always running from him. There's no opportunity to hide from him. I really enjoy that they brought back beating him rewards you with weapon upgrades, but again, like, there's nothing like that for the rest of the game. Because everything else is like, okay, scripted chase sequence, oh, you got a rocket launcher this time. Which, you know, that might be interesting if it was like a regular thing you had to deal with in an actual hub zone, or, you know, like a more open, non-linear section of the game. Yeah, it's just so easy. Like, this is hardcore difficulty, and there wasn't really any point in the game where I was truly struggling. Nothing like in Resident Evil 2, the remake. I really hate that I have to keep making that fucking distinction for the sake of clarity, but whatever. And there's no replay value, like, aside from... Like, the shop is a cool idea, but maybe it doesn't even really matter, because... Like, even if you can add in gimmicky weapons and gimmicky items, like increasing your health regeneration, increasing your damage, which is overkill in this game anyways, as I've already stated. I mean, I expected it to be probably a little bit more different, well, more easy compared to the last game because of the dodge move. And I was always worried about that. I almost wanted them to... I don't know. Because part of me wishes there wasn't an evade move, but at the same time, like, if it was just implemented a little bit better in the game, I don't know, it just... Like, the combat feels better, but it's so much easier to avoid damage in this game, aside from the zombies, and I'm really bad at dodging. That there's not really that much tension in this game. It's not very scary. It feels more like a retread of Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5 territory, you know? Where it's just action, action, action. I mean, it's not to the degree that it's there in those games, but... Like, I don't like how we're coming back to this trend of de-emphasizing tension, de-emphasizing horror, and just going back for action. I will say that the bosses, even though they're pretty easy and simple, I would say, I don't know, like Resident Evil 2 Remake, they were hard. It wasn't impossible to dodge their attacks, it was just really tough. So I don't know if I want to say, like, oh, Resident Evil 2 Remake is kind of poorly designed because it's hard to avoid damage in that game unless you're super specific. But that does add some kind of skill to the game. And in Resident Evil 3, like, there's kind of a timing to the roll every now and then, but it's not really that tight. And it's not like a Dark Souls roll where you have to, like, do it over and over to dodge it in, like, an entire combo. Because there's a cooldown on the evade in this game compared to Dark Souls. And there's no endurance system or anything, which... Like, if they combine the endurance system of Dark Souls and the fact that you could roll in quick succession, maybe the combat could be more engaging than it is. But, I mean, it is what it is. The game is what it is now. And you don't even get costumes. Like, I have to buy the fucking stupid Resident Evil 3 Classic costume from Jill. Fuck off, Capcom. Like, first of all, it's bullshit because you got different costumes for free in the original. There's not a classic soundtrack option. The soundtrack in this game doesn't really stick out to me. It's pretty much... I mean, I guess I noticed it a little bit more than Resident Evil 2 Remake, but it's still generic and boring, and it doesn't pop out. But to be fair, like, the original Resident Evil 3 soundtrack wasn't nearly as good as the first two games, in my opinion anyways. Well, I would say overall, this game is very, very overpriced. This game is not fucking worth $60. I don't even know if it's worth $30. I'd say this is probably like a $20 joint at worst. And the fact that Capcom is like, oh, pay $60 for a game with a fucking... Like, if you know what you're doing in this game, you could probably get through it in like 3 hours, 2 hours. If you remember exactly where to go. Even if you're not necessarily, like, being a hardcore speedrunner or anything. And the game just feels so much dumber down. It feels so dumbed down compared to Resident Evil 2. Like, I guess there's gonna be DLC for this game later down the road, but knowing Capcom, they're probably gonna get us to pay for it. And, like, I'm trying not to shit on Capcom or this game too hard, because for what it's worth, I did enjoy the experience. Like, it's fine, I guess would be the best way to describe this game. It's fine. It's fun, I enjoyed it in the moment, but it just feels so safe, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like they took a lot of risks with this game, and of course it plays into the fact that it came out so much faster after, it came out so soon after the Resident Evil 2 remake. This game doesn't even have mercenaries, which really blows my mind, because obviously the classic Resident Evil 3, that invented mercenaries. You know, that's what put it on the map for the Resident Evil franchise. So it really blows my mind it's not in here. We just have this stupid-ass retarded multiplayer section I'm never gonna play ever again. And, like, the shop is a decent idea, but it feels almost pointless in this game. Because there's just nothing to the game. And the fact is, like, regardless of how much fun I had in my first playthrough, like, I just don't see myself coming back to this often. And this shit, like, it's interesting. It's cool. But this isn't enough to encourage, like, multiple playthroughs to me. Especially when I can just fucking Google it anyways. Like, none of this is of substance. It doesn't add anything to the gameplay. Let's take a look at more of these, just out of curiosity. More defense. A field manual. Oh, it's like a cute throwback to the original game. Hee hee XD. Wait, perfect dodge become easier to... The one part of the game that takes skill, and they're putting this in to make it even easier to do. Even though most of the time, it's not that hard in this game. That is a weird... I mean, I guess you could use this to, like, skip parts of the game, or get access to the shotgun early, but, like... That kind of makes me think of the fucking... the Master Key from Dark Souls a little bit. Except you have to work for it, which is bullshit. Like, some of this stuff I almost want to say should just come with the game. It doesn't, like, as soon as you beat the game, you unlock this stuff. 28,000 points. Fucking ridiculous. I only had, like, 9,000 by the time I beat this game. And what, there's other pages? No? Okay. I wish they still call them Cerberus. I don't care if it's kind of weird. Oh, that's cool. And even Resident Evil 3, like, encouraged, like, the original added more in terms of replayability. Because you had the choices. You could, like, go down different paths, different routes. And if I recall correctly, you could go to, like, completely different areas in the game, depending on your decision. And you can change up the plot a little bit. I mean, I guess I like the fact they made Nikolai more of a prevalent villain in this game. Because he just kind of shows up and dies... I believe in the hospital sequence in Resident Evil 3 Classic. Really surprised we didn't unlock any more here. And yeah, I don't like this quite as much as the raccoon collectible. And this still isn't really good enough. Like, you would probably have to play the game a million fucking times to even have the opportunity to kill 1,400 enemies. Thinning the Horde? Like, they're so generic, too, they're not even, like, interesting. Like, oh, defeat this many enemies, defeat that many enemies. Oh, kill them with an assault rifle. How about, like, get leg shots, or beat the game using only a pistol? I don't fucking know. Beat the game without hit pouches. Collect all weapon parts? Like, that's kind of a thing, I guess. Read all story files. Okay, I'm surprised I missed any. Oh, har, Master of Unlocking. I'm surprised I didn't get that. I was, like, too short, apparently. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, never mind. Here are some cute ones. Complete the game using one or fewer recovery items. I kind of wish it said specifically how low you could be. Or how high you could get. 2 hours of playtime? Sure, that won't be too hard. This doesn't even tell you. Jill Valentine? Like, what's the fucking point of having question mark conditions? Like, yeah, I'm gonna... Like, is this just supposed to be luck-based? Maybe I unlock the condition on further playthroughs? I'm not sure. And I'm not sure what exactly creates an S rank. But, whatever. Oh, wait! Nightmare. I didn't realize there was another difficulty. Okay, so what is this? Enemies behave more aggressively. Enemies' attacks are much stronger. Enemies and items appear in different locations. Okay. Okay, I take back a little bit of what I said. At least they have an added difficulty setting. I should have looked at this earlier before I started talking, but I forgot to check for that. But that does remind me, like, there's still no ink ribbon mechanics even on this difficulty. I'm so glad this isn't like stupid bullshit where it's like, oh, you die instantly. At least it doesn't seem to imply that. I hope not. Maybe this makes the... Wait, do enemies actually... If anyone in the comments knows this, please tell me if enemies will chase you through several doors on Nightmare mode. Fuck, I actually need to test that later on, off camera now. But yeah, so back to the ink ribbons. I think this is my favorite part. The fact that items show up in different locations and enemies too. And the other thing is, because the checkpoint system is so forgiving in this game, that's another reason there's not a lot of tension to it. In my opinion, even though it would be kind of an annoying pain in the ass, I wish they just made it so you only get to save at the save stations. That way there's some kind of tension for death. Because honestly, in a horror game, it's kind of bad that I feel encouraged to experiment. But the game is so forgiving with death that it's like, yeah, I guess I'll see exactly how the hunter's AI works. And, I mean, maybe that's more like a personal point, I'm not sure. Because I tend to play like that with games in general these days. I'm a very technical gamer. Another reason this game just wasn't that scary is because it's not hard to figure out how everything works. Of course, a lot of it comes down to the fact that you've experienced it in the Resident Evil 2 remake, and it uses the same engine, a lot of the same enemies, so it's not that intimidating the second time around. Technically, I've beaten the remake of Resident Evil 2 several times. And yeah, there's no B scenarios or anything to this game. They got rid of the choices. They didn't even try to implement it in a way that was interesting. Like, if this game had like 2, maybe 3 years of development, they could have like made the levels more engaging. I just miss being able to plan out in Resident Evil. When I think of what I love about Resident Evil, it's the planning. That's where the survival aspect comes in. It's not just about recovering your ammo and recovering, you know, health items. It's about coming up with a game plan. Like, okay, like Resident Evil 1 Mansion. Okay, I can go up this staircase, but there's a zombie there. I can go to the left side, and there's a couple zombies there, but on the right side, there's like a hunter I gotta avoid. And there's like a lot of different, you know, elements and just variables at play there that makes the game so engaging. But, of course, like, generally speaking, in terms of adding the evasion, making the combat in this game more deep compared to Resident Evil 2 Remake, where you just kind of run around and stuff, which is probably better for a horror game in general, but if they do this style again, I would like to see them do it with more classic Resident Evil style maps. Non-linear, lots of planning, more emphasis on survival, but still retaining, like, what this game added, you know? Like the evade. But yeah, I think that about covers all my thoughts on this game. Overall, again, like, it's good, it's fine, very safe. I guess, even though a lot of it was jump scares and getting surprised, like, I did get scared a couple, 2, 3 times. Honestly, if you really want to get this game, I would recommend getting it on sale or looking it up on eBay or Amazon, see if you can get it for cheaper than $60, because this is not worth $60 at all. And that's it, guys. Have a good day. Peace.